Joining us right now here on the phone on our guest line, all the way out in Denver, Colorado, sunny Denver, Colorado, the Mile High City, of course, Jeff Legwold of ESPN joins us here on the Christian Arcand Show. Jeff, how are we doing tonight?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing well. Now, I was reading about you. You are not a Colorado native, right? You are from Illinois, is that correct?
Well, long ago. I've been in Colorado longer than I was anywhere else.
Okay.
So, we got bumper stickers out here that say not a native, but I got here as fast as I could. So that's where I'm going.
I lived out in Colorado. I went to school out there, and I lived out there for some years after I graduated, and I know how they are out there. I know how those people are about transplants. They've been like that for a long time. It's obviously gotten a lot more intense over the recent years, but yeah, it's an interesting fan base and one that I had a lot of fun being out there with all those years. It seems like, as is usually the case, Broncos fans are very confident, even while facing their starting quarterback going down with his injury, Jarrett Stidham, who hasn't played in a long time. Do you think that confidence is misplaced? And how does Sean Payton go about setting up an offense here for his backup quarterback?
Well, I think certainly Stidham and his teammates feel good because Sean Payton, one of his sort of mantras as a head coach is the guy just exudes confidence all the time. I mean, that's his MO is, he came right out, 2 minutes after saying Bo Nix has fractured his right ankle and will miss the rest of the playoffs. But you just watch what, Jarrett Stidham can do. So he has really, put the message forth that they believe in Stidham. He believes in Stidham. And I think they will, they'll cater a game plan to help Stidham. But I think it is good to remember that Stidham was one of the first 3 players the Broncos signed in Sean Payton's first season out here in 2023, like 5 minutes after free agency opened. They signed Mike McGlinchey, the tackle. They signed Ben Powers, the guard, and gave those 2 guys contracts that were the biggest at their positions at that time. And they signed Jarrett Stidham. Stidham was a 3rd player in that mix that they signed in that first wave because he wanted him here either to compete with whatever veteran he brought in at that time or in case they got the quarterback of the future in the draft, which they think they have in Nix. But this is a guy that was important for him to get. And I think he's been in this offense for 3 years. He's practically, an extension of quarterback coach Davis Webb. So I think they just feel good about Stidham's preparedness for the moment. Now, how he'll play in that moment is a question, but they think he's ready for it.
Sure, and yeah, we'll all find out together how he's actually going to play. But we remember Jarrett Stidham here in New England as the guy that when the competition started heating up, when Cam Newton got signed, and then they had Brian Hoyer here as well, there was a quarterback competition that offseason, and Stidham kind of just shirked right out of it and then didn't really get any snaps until one game sort of midway through the year. He kind of got a reputation as a guy who wasn't really a big competitor, and, when he was gone, no one really missed him. It was that type of thing, and he was a 4th-round pick. It was, sort of an ill-fated plan anyway, but it sounds to me like you're describing a different guy. It sounds to me like that's not who he is anymore.
Well, he must not have been totally that guy either, because when McDaniels went to Vegas, as the head coach, he signed Stidham to come there.
True.
And so I think they must have seen glimpses of something, they liked along the way for Josh. I knew Josh when he was here, so for Josh to have brought him to Vegas, I think is an indicator that he thought he had something. And I know the Broncos when, his only year in Vegas, he has to go in for Derek Carr at the end of the year, and the Broncos took a note of that. That year he threw for 365 against the Niners, who were the number 1 defense in the league that year, both scoring and total defense. And I think the Broncos even have said they looked at that game a great deal before they signed him here. And I know Sean and Josh know each other pretty well, so I know they've spoken about Stidham along the way too. So, look, the guy's only had 4 starts, and he's the first guy. It's not like this is a common occurrence. I mean, he's the first guy since Roger Staubach to make his first start of a season in a conference championship game. I mean, that's 1972. So it's not like this happens all the time. So it's uncharted ground for all of us talking about it and for Stidham playing in it.
Certainly. We're talking with Jeff Legwold, ESPN. Jeff, the Broncos defense, obviously much ballyhooed all year. Patriots have had a pretty tough gauntlet of defenses so far with the Chargers and now the Texans. Looking at the Broncos and sort of the way things have gone for that defense down the stretch, they gave up a lot of points to Buffalo. They had that awful Jacksonville game, had a couple of cream puff games against the Chiefs and the Chargers backups there at the end of the year. What do you think the current state of this defense is, and are they as fearsome maybe as they were early in the year?
I think they were. I mean, I just think a lot of they've had a couple of key injuries that have taken them out of some of the things they like to do in coverage, especially the safety. Brandon Jones got hurt, and they've had a little more difficult time, defending the middle of the field since he got hurt. And teams have really decided they're going to try and put Hufanga, the other safety, into coverage as much as possible instead of letting him roam around the line of scrimmage. So the teams have had some effectiveness going after that, but, in the end, they still played well enough down the stretch to sort of to get this game at home, essentially. So, and they rushed the passer, better than anyone. I mean, Zach Allen, the defensive end, I think it's an amazing stat, but he actually led the league in quarterback hits this year, more than Myles Garrett, more than everybody else. And that's a pretty intriguing stat. And Nick Bonito's third in pressure rate, the metrics they track, even the coaches. So they feel they can get after, quarterbacks, and that always gives you a chance. And they don't win last week if they don't have 5 turnovers, if they don't force 5 turnovers, which they did, and 4 of those were by Josh Allen. So they can still, even when giving up yards and some points, they can still get to the quarterback and get the ball on the ground when they have to.
What, in your estimation, is going to be their strategy for getting after Drake Maye, who had a tremendous regular season but has struggled with turnovers, as you just were talking about that with Josh Allen? Drake Maye's had a terrible time with turnovers here in his first 2 playoff games.
Yeah, I think playoffs are always, we all talk about high-flying offenses and everything all during the regular season, and then the playoffs are nothing but a rock fight, the whole time. So the Broncos are pretty good at those, and I think they will probably use a lot of 4-man pressures. It's just not the 4 rushers the quarterback would expect. Sometimes it's 2 defensive backs, a linebacker, and a defensive lineman. I mean, they mix and match, and I think they'll at least try and disguise what they're in at the snap, and hope they can force a mistake or two, against the most accurate guy in the league this year.
Yeah, certainly. Jeff Legwold joining us here on the Christian Arcand Show. Jeff, looks like, according to the Vegas books anyway, that Mike Vrabel is going to be named Coach of the Year. Who do you give the coaching check mark to in this matchup, him or Sean Payton?
Well, I think you got to give Sean the postseason experience check mark, but certainly Vrabel will probably put that trophy on the mantle later, after NFL honors, and will have deserved it, immensely. So, but I think in terms of experience coaching in this kind of game, Vrabel certainly has it as a player. But I think in coaching in this type of game on the road, as Vrabel would be, I think you give a little lean to Payton in that regard, but not much of one.
Certainly. When you look at the Broncos offense, and we've been dissecting that over the course of the week here on the show and really at the station, even with Bo Nix, it's not exactly, you were just talking about high-flying offenses. Cortland Sutton's a pretty good player, but you don't have a lot of big names on that offense. All the big names are on the offensive line. And the Patriots' defense just made mincemeat out of the Chargers and the Texans' offensive lines, who admittedly aren't very good. That being said, here is the Patriots' defense something that Broncos fans and your estimation, coaches and the players, are they looking at this Patriots defense the way we sort of looked at the Texans and the Chargers and even your defense there in Denver? Like, do you consider them at that level?
I think, they don't have some of the statistical metrics the other ones do, but you can't deny, at the end of the day, the scoreboard is the great metric, and whether they surrendered one touchdown in consecutive playoff games, that's getting it done, and they certainly have the attention of Sean, and Sean respects Mike Vrabel a great deal, so he would never shortchange what they've done on defense to his team or anybody else. So like I say, it's pretty clear. The Broncos will have put on the cut-ups from the two playoff games, and they will see the Patriots have surrendered two touchdowns in two games, and the Broncos have done that in a quarter in the playoffs. So they'll have their attention.
Absolutely. All right. Before we let you go here, Jeff, it's been great talking to you, by the way. Thanks for coming on tonight. We certainly appreciate it. How are you leaning in this game? I know it's a very tough place to play in Denver. You're short your starting quarterback. I've been getting picks from all over the place here. What's the sentiment like in Denver? I know it's a very confident fan base. How confident is everyone really?
Well, I think, aren't all fan bases pretty confident this time of year? No, I just think we create we use all these metrics now that are amazing with the GPS trackers and everything, and yet in the playoffs, I think the bottom line is turnovers, and I think the plus minus there, it's going to be as simple as that. If whoever comes here, if the Patriots come here and play clean, they've got their starting quarterback and all of that, and I think if they come here and the Broncos force some turnovers, that's where the upset can come.
All right, very good. That's Jeff Legwold, ESPN, joining us here in the Christian Arcand Show. Jeff, great stuff, and we'll be talking about this one for a while, I'm sure. Thanks so much for the time tonight. We appreciate it.
You bet. Thank you.
Okay, Jeff Legwold there, ESPN, joining us, discussing the Broncos, Patriots, and this AFC Championship game up at Mile High on Sunday at 3 o'clock.